Welcome to the Holocaust podcast. This is class number 15 in the discourse Vayedaber Moshe, Roshei Hamatos, which is the 10th discourse in the overall book of Bishash Ekdimu 5672. This is going to be the first class in chapter 40. Chapter 40 is going to conclude the 10th discourse. Okay, but we're left with the Kitzer. We have to do the summary of chapter 39. Okay, so here goes. Quick summary. In the last chapter, we were learning how the overall idea that he's explaining over here is how the different levels that exist both in the worlds and also in the and also in the Sphirot are not only because where they line up in the Kav, and because there's more light and less light. There's more light in the beginning of the Kav and the beam, and less light in the later on. It's not merely because of that, but there is a fundamental difference. There's a qualitative difference, even without how much light is flowing in. And that has to do with, like he discussed in the worlds, he discussed earlier how the worlds above Atzilus experience the Kav itself versus Atzilus only experiences a ray of the Kav. So that's not just more light, less light. It's a whole different experience. The Kav is the Mahus, is the substance of Or Ein Sof, which in Atzilus you lost that already completely. Then he explained how in Adam Kadmon, for instance, this is going back to before chapter 39. In chapter 38, in Adam Kadmon, he explained how the light is completely different than the light that shines in past Adam Kadmon, even above Atzilus. I'm not going to go into it. You can listen to chapter 38 or refresh your memory from there. And in chapter 39, he started explaining how within Atzilus itself, in the Spheros, how Chachma and Bina are fundamentally different. And he begins to explain it as follows. Let's leave the Kitzer. In a Chachma, because Chachma, again, this is the summary at the end of the chapter, Teifes Etzem Adavar. Chachma takes hold of the essence. When Chachma takes something in, it takes in the essence. Both Chachma and Bina are both intellectual faculties, powers of the mind, power of the intellect. And through the intellect, we get to grasp certain, or it gives us it opens us up to be able to take into our consciousness and into our experience and into our understanding the outside phenomenon, whatever exists. I mean, besides ourselves, and even to understand ourselves, we can also apply the Chachma and Bina, but that's what our intelligence does. But the difference is that Chachma, when it explores something, it explores its essence. It takes in the essence of that which it's experiencing. Bina tefesas hametzias, and Bina only gets the descriptions of something, which is the existence of it, not its soul, not what it is in its substance. And therefore, he says, and for that reason, the mochen of Chachma, Abba's father, which is referring to Chachma, versus Bina, which is called mother. The two intellectual powers are called father and mother. So he says the general, based on this idea that Chachma grabs the essence, this will also explain why the mochen da Abba, why the mochen of the father, Lamayla Mishtalshalos, are considered above the entire progressive, chain-like progressive order of evolution. Because it's higher than this whole idea of evolving lights. This is where we're literally in the midst of the explanation of. That's what we're going to link into the next chapter. Because cause and effect, the concept of Ila and Ola. Remember, Ila and Ola is not just cause and effect, but it's cause and effect where the cause and the effect are very much overlapping each other, very much intertwined one with each other. It's a relationship of closeness. Shayach rak b'bchinas hametzius is only possible when we are already in the outer world of something. When you're in the outer world of something and you're relating to something on the external levels of that existence, there is an evolution of one stage of knowing it, and from that can emerge a lower state. The Hainu Bahara, which explains is only the ray of something. In the ray, there is The higher part of the ray, which is closer to the source, is brighter. Further away, it's less bright. And that's the process of the evolution. For example, when I'm relating to something intellectually through the bina, I'm much closer in the examining of that reality. As we discussed earlier, it's an unbiased experience of what it is. It's not the essence, because that would be chachma. That's the whole point he's making over here. The essence is chachma, but it's at least I'm getting to know all the properties and characteristics and definitions that make up whatever it is it's getting to know, unbiased to what it has to do with me. Then from there comes an emotional a bond or an emotional attachment, because that creates the next stage, which is from there evolves some kind of an emotional relationship between me and this person, me and this entity, me and this discipline, me and this science, me and this, whatever it is that I'm getting to know. It could be me and God. It could be whatever it is that I'm getting to know through my mind. And at the next stage, it's creating an emotion. Now, the emotion is a lower state of connection between the person and this entity. Why is it lower? Because I've stepped away a little more to a distant place, because I'm no more involved objectively in the reality of it. I'm now a little bit in my space as well. I'm mixing it with me. So it's not pure anymore. My openness to it is not it. It's me and it. That's what an emotion is, how I feel about it, my excitement towards it. So both these experiences are in the external realm of that entity. Because if I was totally like the chachma, which goes into the essence, in the chachma experience, it goes into the very, very deep soul of that which I'm getting to know. It's going into its true essence. From there, nothing evolves. It's it. It's not. It doesn't. It's not. What would be the right? That would be the best word. It doesn't evolve into a lesser experience. We'll see about this more in the next chapter. I'm just jumping ahead a little bit. In the ray of something, not in the essence of it. And in order to understand this, which again, we're going to gain much more clarity on this in the next chapters. So in order to understand this idea, he goes on to explain that in general, there's two modes of Ila v'Olo. One of them is the one that we really explored until now. The lower type of Ila v'Olo. The lower we mean where the system of Ila v'Olo is a more chitzoniistic system, in the sense that it's a more the relationship between the Ila and the Olo is a little weaker. Why? Because the Olo, which is the effect, is from the very get-go not a product, not really produced by the Ila, by the cause, but rather the Olol is put in there in a hidden way, and it's only revealing itself through the cause. As he says, the Olol, the effect, is a complete different substance. However, so why is it coming out of that? How can one thing come out of something else? The way Hashem produced its, and Hashem decided it will merge into the world, is by packing B into A. So he packed B into A. Now, before it's unraveled, or before it kind of spits B out. B is incorporated in A, even though it's a complete different entity. The example he gave for that was emotions, how they found themselves in the intellect. Like he says, an emotion. But what's the example of the emotion when the emotion is still incorporated in the mind? It's when you feel, when you have a feeling, an excitement about something in the mind, not in the heart, which means it's still an intellectual excitement. But as we learned, that's not really, that's an intellectual emotion, because not only because it's taking place in the head, but also because of the quality of it. It doesn't have the emotion, the density of the emotion, because an emotion is dense, because an emotion is very much self-awareness, very much about me. And even when I'm feeling something is good, I'm feeling that it's good for me, as opposed to the emotion of the mind. The excitement is still about an objective excitement. And he says, that's the idea of the midos, of the intellect, of the emotions as they are in the intellect. In the mind, that comes in loibe morgish. Number one, it's not. It happens. I don't know what he emphasizes over here. It happens automatically. Oh no, because in real mochen, remember he differentiated that the midos shebeseichel. Then you could have an excitement that happens in pure mochen, not in the midos of the intellect. Again, here he's talking about how emotions start to brew. But if you remember, we discussed that when a person is very, very deeply entertaining something in their mind, they can experience to the point to feel it. But that's a whole different experience. That's the panemius of the essence of the experience of it. Then it's like what he called ava betanugim. There's like this great love of delight, and there it's in a state of dveikus, not an external type of an excitement, but like without murgish, you're not feeling anything. You're just lost. You're completely attached in something. That is if it's pure moichin. Again, this was a what we might call a parenthetical thought. And that is the source. Oh, but when is that? The midos of the seichel, going back, the intellect that's in the emotion that's in the mind, that's the source for the good feeling that's in the heart. When I say good feeling, no, sorry, it's wrong that I'm translating this. This is the source, lahergish, to the feeling, the lotov, that it's good for me, shabalev, that's in the heart. So that's the evolution. In the mind, it's a feeling that it is good. But that's already considered external, like we discussed earlier, because when you're really just getting to know it, then you're not thinking about external qualities, that it's good or not good. Let me just know what it is. Tell me what it is, not the reactions to it. That's not important right now. Just it. The midos shebesechel has already a leaning into the reactions to it, like good. How many stars do you give it? That's the question. That's external. And then afterwards, but that's the source to produce a feeling that, oh, this is not just good, but it's good for me, which is a real emotion. And he says, we learned in the Maimer, that whole evolution can only be in the external element of the intellect. And the proof to that was the very fact that that one thing is carrying a foreign substance. In essence, you can't have any foreign substances. So the fact that that the Ilah and the Allah are two separate things, that itself is proving that it's not taking place in the panemius of the higher level. It's taking place in the chitzonius, because the chitzonius can incorporate with it externally. It can incorporate within it other energies that just need to be born. Okay, this is the conclusion of what we learned earlier. Now, in chapter 40 is where he's going to begin to explore the second Ilah v'Olol. And he's going to show us that even this Ilah v'Olol, even this cause and effect, which is a higher type of a connection between the cause and the effect, between entity A and entity B. Because entity B is not going to be something foreign than A. It's actually the same. It's an offshoot of A. It's not something new. It's literally a continuation of A. It's just external to it. That's a higher level of Ilah v'Olol. Yet, even that cannot exist in the essence of something. The fact that one entity A or the Ilah A produces an offshoot in a way that it is, and this is very important to realize, in a way that it is close to what it is producing, and what it is producing feels and knows intimately that which is producing it. In other words, in a way of Ilah va'alul, in a way of closeness, that can only be in a relationship that is taking place on the outer surface of something, but not in the internal, not of essence. Okay, where is this going to go? The question is it shayach? Is it even possible for a essence to emanate a light? Because this is the idea that we're going to learn about now. We're going to talk about a light, a light. Of course, every time there is a ma'or, as he's going to explain, every time there is the sun has rays, a fire has light coming from it. Of course there is light. That's the notion of light is not, which is coming from an essence. But he's going to differentiate. He says whenever an essence is producing a light, there is distance between, even though the ray is attached to its source, there is still distance between them. There is a shaloi be'erach. There is an ein aroch. There is a non-comparability between the light and its source in some way, as we're going to see. Whenever we see that one thing is one light, or one, you have a source that's producing a emanation, and that emanation is be'erach its source, is not shalo be'erach, is be'erach, which means it has it's almost like a continuation, and it has like an overlap with its source. That itself is a proof that even its source is only a ray, and there is a ray, and then there's a ray of a ray. The relationship over here is not going to be of essence to a ray, because essence always remains separated from the rays that come from it. So he's going to show us a different form of Ilah va'alul. I'm sorry, I'm jumping a little bit ahead to a place that you might not be understanding what I'm saying, so please bear with me. I'm just laying a little foundation over here of the main idea that he's explaining. He's going to show us another format of Ilah va'alul, and he's going to then prove us that even that kind of Ilah va'alul, which is more a higher form of Ilah va'alul, even that can only be in the chitzonius of something, in the external element of something, and not in the essence of something. What does that mean? It means that even the source is external. Even A that produces B is also external. So it's external producing even more external, and that's why they can be connected and attached to each other in a way of closeness. Because if it would be the pnimius, which would mean the essence of something, which is where he's going with chachma could not send off a ray that's just a continuation of it. Let's see how he explains that. For oif and abeis, and the second example, be ilah va'alul and cause and effect, who be inyan ilah va'alul b'moichin gufa. He's going to give us an example how there is an ilah va'alul in the mind process itself. Meaning, earlier he was using the example of intellect and emotions. When he was using the example of intellect and emotions, it was understood that the emotions are not of the same substance of the intellect. Because this is emotion. Emotion is excitement. Intellect is completely different. And it's only that intellect incorporates emotion. And that we explained earlier. Of course it has to be chitzonius. Because in essence, it couldn't have in it a foreign substance. Essence is one indivisible entity. That's what we learned in the last chapter. He says, now we're going to use the other type of ilah va'alul. And for that, we're going to use how within the process of mochin itself, we find an evolution. What is that? Like the example, when the mashpia, when the influence, when a teacher is teaching a student, that's basically the idea. When there is an influence of intelligence, of intellect, min mashpia, from the influencer, el makabel, to the recipient, so the intellect that's being sent to the recipient is not the same mohus of the seichel of the mashpia. That's understood, that a student that learns something from his teacher is already downgraded. It's on a much it's on an inferior level. Every student who's learning by a teacher, if the teacher deserves to be learned from, which means there is a higher level of intelligence by the teacher, at least in this subject, let's say. So the teacher's understanding of the subject is much deeper, more profound, much richer, and the student is getting a more watered down version of the idea. That's why the sages say that a student does not know their teacher, what the real essence of what the teacher taught them till 40 years. That means there's a gap over here. So, yeah. What am I hacking in Chinik? I'm sorry. I completely read this wrong. So please forgive me for a moment here. I'm not feeling so well today, so I'm a little off here. Let's start again. I realize while I'm talking over here that I'm off. Okay, let's start again. The second level of ilav and cause and effect to be inyan ilav gufi is in the moichin itself. When the mashpia is being mashpia seichel from his mind to the makabel, to the recipient. Harei seichel hanishpa el makabel. It's unlike emotions. I don't know how I even completely derailed over here. So please forgive. He's trying to differentiate the relationship over here between the student's understanding and the teacher's understanding, which is an evolution. So please forgive another second here, because someone is ringing nonstop here and it's driving me insane. Give me a second. Okay, sorry. So when you have a teacher and a student, so the teacher's the seichel that is being given to the recipient, it's not a different mohus. It's lower, but it's the same substance, because the teacher is taking of theirs. This is seichel and that seichel. This is an understanding. This is intelligence, and that's an intelligence. And more than that, it's carrying over. It's the teacher's intelligence. Yes, as we said earlier, unintended to say that over here, mistakenly said over here, but of course it's inferior, but still it's the same substance. It's not like emotions coming from intellect. See, that's the main switchover over here. Earlier we were talking about emotions and intellect, where one is born from the other, but emotions and intellect are two different. The one is fire and one is water. It's a complete different substance. But over here, it's one thing. However, it's only a ray. It's only a ray, meaning it's less than the. What do we mean? It's only a ray. The teacher can never drop to the student the very, very, very essence of their understanding. They understand something, and they're emanating from their understanding. They're emanating light. They're passing over. So it's drawn from the intellect of the mashpia, of the influencer, from the teacher, not from the substance and the essence of their mochin, but only from the external, which that is only a ray within the teacher itself. That was the point that we were making before we started over here. I made the introduction. And that is that whenever there is a a ilava alal, a cause and effect, in a manner where the two of them are close to each other, as we're going to see soon, as he's going to explain soon. It must be that the ha'ara, this emanation that's coming, which is the student's mind, understanding of the subject, the intelligence of the student, which is an emanation of the teacher, must be that the teacher, from where the teacher is emanating, is from an emanation itself in their own mind, not from the essence of their own mind. In other words, first there is a ray within the teacher itself. The ray is maybe not the substance of their mochi. Now you can explain this to me. The very essence of the teacher's intelligence is not even shining in the concept as the teacher understands it. The teacher has produced a concept in their mind. Person has innovated a concept. That's not the essence of their mochen. The essence of their mochen is their production. For example, we usually say that that's the idea that the unique, the quality of producing a child versus teaching a student is that whenever you're teaching a student, you're giving chitzonius. You're just sharing an intellect. You're not sharing the intelligence. You're not sharing intelligence itself. You're sharing an intellectual concept, not the substance of that's number one. But when you're creating a child, you're grabbing from the essence of your mochen. And that's called hashpa pnimis. Pnimis over here meaning atzmus. It's a hashpa of the essence. So every time a teacher is teaching, it's first of all bichlal giving seichel. The whole notion of teaching students is from the chitzonius. And it's possible to say that he means even more. Let's say what the teacher is understanding consciously. I'm not talking about their very power to produce intellect. That's for sure is not being channeled to the students at all. Although, after a long time teaching a student, the student will learn to think similar to the teacher. But that's more like a copying, like it carves itself out in the student. Not that the teacher really transmitted the etzem hamochen shelo. You can't do that. But maybe he means even to a lesser degree. Not only are you not taking your essence of your mochen, but even the teacher's understanding of it, the essence of it, is not being taught. What's being taught is the light that's shining in the teacher's mind, a more external light, the more explanations of the idea, more like we might say the bina of it, not the essence of the chachma, not the kuda, not the bright, powerful nucleus of it. The teacher has that in his revealed mind that he's not teaching. He's passing over a lot of information. So he's giving over a chitzonius of it. He's trying to keep the nekuda there. Yeah, it's true. But it doesn't translate. The nekuda itself is not being passed over. It's the chitzonius that, and from the chitzonius of the teacher's seichel, of the teacher's intelligence, comes the ray, which becomes the seichel atalmud, which becomes the intelligence of the student. So it's a ray coming from a ray. And meaning, why should we say so? Why can't it be that the essence is producing a ray? Why can't it be that and it is that ray? It's not like there's no such a phenomenon that an essence produces a ray. That's what light is, coming from any source. It's a ray coming from an essential source. So why are we saying over here, no, that when a teacher teaches the student, not only is the student receiving a ray, but even the place from where it's being taught is only a ray, not the substance of it. So he says like this, because every ray that comes in a manner of ilava alul and cause and effect. And remember, the idea over here, cause and effect, means that they're close to each other. This is important. This forces that also the cause, is only a ray. What does that mean? Because, he says in the parentheses, the oil lagabe ma'or is different. Because when light comes from the ma'or, now the ma'or is the essence, ma'or is the source of light, ma'or is the luminary. The luminary is the essence. Let's take the sun. The luminary of the sun itself. And then there is the rays of the sun. The or legabe ma'or, because light that comes from a ma'or, from a luminary, einoi bebchinas ilo va'olo, does not work in the system of what we call ilo va'olo, cause and effect. A cause and effect. Now, what do you mean? A ray is for sure an effect of the cause. No. Not in a way of ilo va'olo where they're close to each other. What does that mean? Ella. Rather. Oy bebchinas gilui. Now, he says, because, and for the reason he's going to explain now, that every light that comes from the essence, coming from a essential source, here too he's going to show two modes. Just like in Ila va'olol there were two modes, in Oyer and Ma'or, light coming from a source is also two modes, but both of them are in a way that there is a separation of the essence and its light, meaning they're not, the source is not leaning into the light and the light is not understanding its source. There is a gap between them. He says, first there is a higher level. Let's explain it. There is the second, it's going to be understood better in the, because this can be very confusing. So for 1 minute. Notwithstanding the second possibility that he's going to say in a moment, there for sure there is distance. And let me tell you what that means. There is a type of light that comes from a source, from a luminary, where the luminary first has a tzimtzum in itself in order to produce the light. Like we say, the or Ein Sof, before Hashem, right? All the lights that are coming, they come after a tzimtzum. The ma'ar, before tzimtzum arishon, before the first contraction, everything is considered ma'ar, luminary. It's only, even though there's light there, but the light is lost in the ma'ar, in the source of the light. Okay? So how does the light emanate? The kav, any light that comes after it, through a tzimtzum. So that's one way. So for sure in that second case, where the light is being produced from the ma'ar, but the ma'ar is not, the ma'ar is hiding before it gives off light, then for sure they're not ila va'olo. Then for sure there's great distance between the light. The light is not in any way a reflection of what the etzem is. But even in a more higher state, where the oir is giluya etzem, where the light is to illuminate the essence, even there, it's not in a way of closeness. That's what he's saying over here. But he starts with the higher level. The ima yosha gilu lifi oifen etzem, even though the gilu, the revelation, is in accordance to the essence, makol makam, nevertheless, it's still non-comparably and without any comparison to the essence, stated elsewhere. Or the second way is shaba ayadei tzimtzum. Then for sure, if it comes through a contraction in a manner of removal of the light, ha'atzmi, you remove the essential light and you shine only in the memela, then for sure it's with ein aroich. When there is a aura that comes in a manner of ilava ol, which means that the source is really leaning in and revealing itself in the effect. The hainu b'bchinas erech, in a way of where one is comparative to the one above it. And the ela is getting involved and engaged to produce that which it's affecting and revealing itself in that engagement. That will only work when the ela, which is the cause, is also only a ray. So it's a ray producing another ray. Now, this obviously needs a lot more explanation. I just wanted to get into the chapter. As Hashem, Tomorrow, or Be'ezus Hashem, we're going to hopefully understand this much better. But the main nakud over here is that even the second set of Ilah V'Olol, which is not an Ilah V'Olol of the first kind that we discussed earlier, where there are two separate substances, but rather there's the Seichel HaMashpia, which is a brighter, let's call it this way, a brighter intelligence. Let's say for this case sake, 90 watts of light. And the Seichel of the Talmud that's receiving is 70 watts of light. And the idea is, and the way it works is, as he's explaining, even such a Ilah V'Olol can only exist in Chitzonius, in the external. Because this is only possible when one ray produces another ray. But when it's touching essence, this will not work. Please bear with me, Be'ezus Hashem, for the next class, and this will, Be'ezus Hashem, become clear.